So turning your hobby into a business or some type of income generating venture can really suck the fun out of it. And that's especially true, I think, if you're some kind of artist. Because for artists like myself, I'm a painter, you often rely on the feeling, the kind of motivation, to paint. Sometimes you just be inspired by a reference photo, you might be out and about. It's a very spontaneous kind of thing at times. You just get this feeling to paint and then you do, okay? But you can't rely on that when you are trying to make an income from it. So yeah, it's a bit of a perspective shift, and this video is for anyone who has some type of skill, some type of hobby that they're considering monetizing in a way through either a product or a service. And I think a service-based business is often one of the easiest ways to start, because it just involves you working one-on-one with the person. You don't have to create a product, which takes a lot of time, trial and error, even just researching whether people will potentially buy it or there's a demand for that particular product. So yeah, I find service-based stuff tends to be pretty good. Or of course, you can do what I'm doing, just making YouTube videos and go from there. Basically, you are shifting from this idea of internal cultivation. So when I paint, you're painting for its own sake. For me, I like a particular scenery. I went on holiday and I'm just painting someone. No one's there to watch. No one's taking notes. It's just me, no cameras on, nothing. So there's no pressure really to end up with something that meets a particular goal, except in your mind's eye thinking, okay, well, I want the painting to look this particular way. There's less pressure and there's less kind of external factors that influence you. But when you're doing, when you're painting like me, when you're teaching something and you've got students, your students are going to want to learn specific things. For example, I really like wet on wet kind of loose style painting. And a lot of my students like that as well. But some of them also want to learn a bit of drawing. And I really don't like teaching drawing. But I have to do that, because if I don't teach that part of it, then they're not going to be able to progress to the next stage, which is painting. So fast forward a few months into me teaching people how to paint, I kind of realized one day that I just wasn't enjoying it. It started with small things, like I'd get home from work and I think, I'm dreading, I don't really want to do this video. I've got, I've only got a little bit of time, and you're kind of worrying about the end result as well. I'm thinking to myself, hey, is this painting going to be good enough to post? Are people going to like it? Am I going to be? So there's a lot of pressure that's not normally on you, especially as an artist, because you want to definitely help people. So I thought I'd talk about a few ways that I mitigated this, just a few points of advice that might help. And I still use these things till today. I think they're important tips because they've helped me to continue doing what I do. And if you're going to turn a hobby into some type of income generating venture, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be something that you enjoy doing. Okay, you may not enjoy it in the same way as you did before, but you certainly need to have that motivation to continue doing it each month, because that's what makes it sustainable, makes it stable. So the first thing I want to talk about is a positive feedback loops. So whenever you start teaching, and maybe you post something in a group and someone really likes your advice and says, thank you so much for your advice, that really helped me out, I managed to paint this, and they show you a painting. Always remember those moments. And what I used to do was I used to also just copy the photo into like a little folder, just to remind myself, hey, I'm on the right track. And those little wins in the beginning are just so important, because in the beginning you have nothing. I had 0 people watching me on YouTube. I had a friend from work, the only subscriber, and it just felt crap. It felt crap, and there's a type of there's a type of nothingness, you know, in the beginning when you're going from 0 to 1. It's just so difficult. So yeah, always find ways to, you know, even if you finished a painting, or if you finished, you know, making one video, even if it sucks in your mind, that's a small accomplishment, and give yourself a kind of pat on the back for that. And even if you've sold something, geez, even better. So the second thing to also remember is you need to take time to cultivate your skill. Okay, so with any kind of skill, I think they say, I can't remember what it was, like you need to spend at least 1,000 hours, is 1,000 or 10,000 hours in it to become somewhat proficient in that skill. Okay, and initially you might not feel like you're as proficient as you can be, but I think when you start off, you need to be at a certain level where the people that you're teaching, you know, a good amount more than they do. Okay, that's a good place to start off. You don't have to know, you know, a huge amount. I don't have to be Picasso or something like that. But, you know, in my situation, I can teach people how to draw. I can teach people how to paint a very simple landscape, how to mix paints, how to apply the paint, how much water to use, all that kind of stuff I don't even need to think about, okay? But one thing to remember, one thing that sort of changed my mind as well is using your teaching as a way to cultivate that skill. So one of the best ways to get better at what you're doing, cultivate that skill, is to just teach it, because that really forces you to look at yourself and ask yourself, do I actually understand what I'm doing? And if you don't understand what you're doing, you're kind of forced to have to learn how to do it so that you can teach someone else. And it goes on and on from there, because some people might ask you questions, or they might ask you, how do you paint this particular thing? And initially it was like, you know, it was portraits, and I'd never really painted any portraits before. So I had to learn, and it sort of helped me step a bit out of my comfort zone and improve my skills more. So that's a really good positive that helped me continue on. The third thing that really helped me was just reminding myself that it's not always going to be fun. Okay, that's a big mental shift. Okay, when you're painting, or if you're doing that particular, maybe you're doing carpentry and you're out in the workshop and you're just enjoying it. You know, maybe there's a particular thing that you like to make, some sort of speciality. For me, I liked loose painting, so I didn't want to be torturing myself on a painting for hours and hours and hours, making it super detailed just to please a crowd. You know, I, believe it or not, I'm a pretty impatient sort of painter, so I'll spend an hour maybe on most paintings. And I like to paint in a loose sort of manner, and I like painting mostly buildings for some reason. I'm just really drawn to buildings, and also some nature kind of landscapes. So if someone was to ask me to, say, paint, I don't know, like fairies or horses or something like that, I could do it, but that's just not the kind of subject matter that I want to be dealing with. So you have to remember the initial reason that you got into that hobby in the first place. And if possible, as much as possible, stay true to that, as it's really like an untapped source of motivation that can just continue on and on. And also keep an open mind, because over time, the direction might change. You know, I started getting into portraits. I started getting into more detailed sort of painting. So, you know, keep an open mind to that sort of stuff. But especially in the beginning, that's what really helps you. You know, it's kind of going back to what attracted you to that thing in the first place. And that's going to help you to, if you can turn that into some type of product or some type of service, people will know straight away that you're passionate about that particular thing. And at the same time, you're being true to yourself. It's not always possible, but I think if you can make that possible, it makes it more fun. So those are just a few tips that I thought of. I hope that it was helpful. This video was helpful to you. And yeah, if you liked this video, you found it helpful, comment below if you have suggestions as well. Otherwise, catch you next time.